So in this video, I'm gonna address Mr. Panuel's misinformation, right? And before I can get into the video itself, for those of you who are wondering why this video is in low quality, I will explain why. I am a Master's of Science in Financial Engineering student. I'm doing my Master's of Science in Financial Engineering, so most of my data is preserved for my academic coursework as an unemployed DevOps engineer and a software engineer in South Africa. I cannot afford to spend my data recklessly. This is the economy of Ramaphosa. This is a topic for another day, so I'm gonna play this video in low quality. As long as we get the message, we can comment on the message. That's what matters. Mr. Panuel, you are so wrong. You are so wrong, and I'm gonna explain why you are so wrong. And I guess maybe I'm disappointed because intellectually I used to put you on that level, higher level, and I've realized that perhaps that was the mistake that I made. Okay, because I'm gonna play some bits and pieces where I believe that you are wrong, and I'm gonna explain why you are wrong. Okay, and my opinions are not influenced by pop culture. I do research, I do follow scholars, and hear what they are saying, so that is why I am confident in my opinion, because it's not influenced by loud noises. It is influenced by what academia is saying.
Lose your job. You're captured by money and a job so much that you are defying your own moral compass and your values and your standpoint when something is wrong and you can see it, but you can't speak out against it. There are men that believe that homosexuality is wrong. I'm not saying that you must be homophobic and bash gay people. They are living their lives and they're not bothering anyone generally. But you should be comfortable to say, I don't approve of homosexuality. I don't think a man and another man should lay together. A woman and another woman should lay together. That is your truth. You're not hurting anyone, but it's something that you're saying. And I can tell you now for a fact, most South Africans...
Okay, let me step in here, right? I know where you're going to say most South African men are homophobic, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into that later on, okay? You saying that people must be comfortable with their opinion of not being approval of homosexuality. Number one, it's not like the LGBTQ plus community. As the LGBTQ plus community, we are seeking for your approval. Number one, okay. But what's wrong about your message is that it gives comfort for haters to be haters, for homophobics to be homophobics, as it will give comfort for the racist to be racist if we are using the same framework and apply it on another group of people. We can say that white people can be comfortable to say, I don't approve of black people being equal to white people. That is their truth. That is their opinion. Does that mean they must be comfortable with that? According to your framework, according to your line of thinking, yes, because that is your truth. But you see the danger in that. I am using race, because I know that as a black man yourself, I assume you are a black person. You will understand it because now you are a black person. Perhaps when it comes to sexuality of gay people, it does not hit home because you are not gay. But when I say black, it's going to hit right where it has to hit for you to understand how dangerous your opinion is, and I'm using race, even though I know that some people are going to say, but race and sexuality are not the same thing. No, race and sexuality are two things that are the same. How they are the same? Both are identity markers. Sexuality is somebody else's identity marker. They don't choose. It has been scientifically proven that they do not choose to be gay, right? You did not choose to be black, right? And however, race is your identity marker, because at the end of the day, you are a black person, right? So when your identity marker is attacked, when there are so many harmful views according to you, something that is your identity marker, you are being persecuted, you are being attacked, right? So I'm using race because I know that if I use race, that's how many people are going to understand it, because it's going to click to where it has to click in their minds, right? So we can say, okay, Mr. Panuel, let's follow your framework, right? I know there are men who are gonna say, okay, now that Mr. Panuel is saying I must be comfortable with my disapproval of homosexuality because that is my truth, right? I like to say to white people, let's follow Mr. Panuel's framework. Be comfortable in your racist views. Be comfortable in your view of not thinking that, or in your view of not approving of black men in leadership positions. Yes, do that. Follow Mr. Panuel's framework, right? Because that is the allowance that he's giving to the world, right? And even as the LGBTQI plus community, we must be comfortable with our disapproval of whatever that we don't approve of straight people. Whatever that we don't approve of straight people. I don't know what, because normally we don't have any hate. We don't disapprove of straightness. We don't disapprove of, as a matter of fact, we support straight people. That's why we visit. That's why we go to straight people's weddings. That's why we like straight couples pictures on social media. But the problem here, the bottom line that is problematic about your statement is that you see it gives allowance for hate people to be hateful, right? And whereas our goal is to educate each other that as much as you are not this, as much as I am not a monkey, that doesn't mean that being a monkey is wrong. As much as I am not a butterfly, that doesn't mean that being a butterfly is wrong. That is what we should be teaching people, right? We need to teach people that as much as they are not black people, that doesn't mean that being black is wrong. But this is the framework that you are missing. Your framework is encouraging people to be comfortable in their ignorance. There are so many people who will be influenced by your framework, and that will breed ignorance. That is actually the number one problem. People are already seeing the world as black and white, and we are trying to teach them people that the world is not black and white. Outside your bubble, there's a whole world that is active, right? And the thing that you need to do is to understand that this is my world, right? But this doesn't mean that it is wrong for the other world to exist. Doesn't mean that if I am not that world, then that world is wrong. You must understand it is this and that. It is not this or that. Your framework encourages the mentality that it is this or that. Homosexuality, the straightness is right, homosexuality is wrong. Alright. It does not teach that homosexuality is good, straightness is good. That's that. It's why is it good? We know that people in homosexual relationships, some of them, they find pleasure in homosexual relationships, happiness, blah 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 blah. Yeah, so you see, it's good, right? It's good that you are a fish and I am a dog. That doesn't mean that when you are a fish, it's wrong for me to be a dog. You get it? And I think that you get it because I think that you are still a smart person. So it is very, very dangerous for you to say that people must be okay with their ignorance. You are encouraging people to be okay with their ignorance. And it's disappointing. Okay. Now let's hop into another point that you made about most South African men.
South African men believe that homosexuality is wrong. It's not by accident that homosexuality is criminalized in most African states. Most Africans believe it's wrong. I'm not saying say that. I'm saying you should be brave enough to say something and stand for it and explain why, and allow other people, gay people, to challenge you and to be like,
okay, just because it is normalized, it doesn't mean that it is the truth, you know. That doesn't mean that in Africa homophobia is normalized. That doesn't mean that that is good, you know. That doesn't mean that it is natural, you know. I interpret your statement as if it wants to say that by accident, it's not by accident that homosexuality is criminalized. For some people will say, yeah, it is justified, you know, because we Africans are not homosexual. But as you are not addressing things at their deep depth level, you're addressing things on their surface level, right? So currently you must look. I have a sociology degree also, an anthropology degree, by the way. I want you to understand that we are looking things systemically, right? We are looking at things systemically. When you say that homosexuality, most men are homophobic. First of all, it's wrong for them to be homophobic when we reference history, right? Because homophobia that they have today came with colonization. Okay, that's a fact. Colonization, religion brought homophobia, and through that, you know, if you look at most of the countries that were never colonized, you know, you're gonna see that most of them, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them, you're gonna see that these countries are progressive. You know, India, for example, you know, it is progressive. You know, there is some in their spiritual beliefs, you know, homophobia is not a thing. Okay. And here in Africa, most South African men, most Africans are victims of neurocolonization, right? That is what you should be addressing, you know. They are homophobic because of they were born into the system that normalized or glorified homophobia. Hate gay people because it is a sin against God. Your God, your Christian God, your Christian interpretation of what the Holy Scriptures said, and your conservative Christian interpretation of Holy Scriptures. You know, and I'm saying Holy Scriptures in quotation marks, by the way. So, if most men are homophobic, our goal is not to breed or to encourage their ignorance. If we know that they are influenced by colonialization, I love those who are deconstructionists, you know, decolonialists, you know, when they talk about we need to be decolonized until we address homophobia. When we address homophobia, that is their no-go area. No, homophobia is actually good. You know, we Africans don't understand homophobia, but like you guys are the ones who say we must decolonize. Unless if you don't understand what decolonization mean, I think you guys are hypocritical. You know, because if you are going to decolonize, we are not only decolonizing politically, we are also decolonizing spiritually. We go back to what our forefathers believed about sexuality and gender before colonization. You cannot say we're decolonizing, but not that. That is not decolonization, right? At least in its essence. So many people are victims of, most men are victims, most men who are saying that are homophobic. Yes, we agree that they are homophobic, but we are not saying that they must be encouraged to be homophobic, be told that they must be comfortable with saying that I am homophobic, or I don't agree, or I don't approve of homosexuality. Whereas we know what breeds their homophobia. They were born into the system. It's like you guys are hypocritical, like, honestly speaking, because if I apply this to race, that's where you're gonna get it, because race affects you as a black man, Mr. Panuel. So it's like saying that because most white people are racist, they were born into the racist system, they were born into racist families, they must be comfortable with their racist views. Now it makes sense, because it hits you, because now it talks about you. Perhaps it did not land to you when I was talking about homosexuality, right? But now that I'm talking about race, now you get it. For sure you get it. Because, like I said, race and sexuality are similar things, are the same things, because they are part of our identity markers. So when you're telling a white person that they must be comfortable with their racist views, because, oh my God, it's not their problem that they were born into a racist family that taught them that racism is okay, so they must be comfortable with being racist and saying that I don't approve of black people in leadership positions. Oh yeah, that's their truth. That is their comfortable truth that they must be comfortable with, right? They must be able to say that, right? If that's what you agree with, then okay. But I don't think that is what you agree with. Maybe that's what you agree with. I think that is not what you agree with, but maybe that's what you agree with. That if somebody is born into a system that automatically degrade other people who are different to them, they should be comfortable with that, instead of addressing the discomfort, which is true. We must learn that it's okay. It's okay that you are a fish and I'm a dog. If you are a fish, that doesn't mean that me being a dog is wrong. Alright? It doesn't mean that you must disapprove of me being a dog. You are a fish, and me being a dog doesn't mean that I must disapprove of you being a fish. This analogy applies both in race and in sexuality. And I'm gonna again go to another point that you made.
We'd ask you and your woman as well to maybe not kiss each other as well, because that's also public indecency.
Here you said is here.
Word woke. I know they love doing that today. I'm woke and tweeze my eyebrows and put on nice blush and foundation and get nice lipstick, and I can get nice nails, and maybe besides the private parts. True.
Guys, I'm gonna, if there's some other people who are watching this video, maybe who don't know this I will say, there is a point where Mr. Panuel is gonna, I don't want this video to be long, so I'm just gonna say what he just said instead of playing the video. He said that by his definition of manhood, you must have a penis naturally, you must have a high testosterone. Oh my God. Damn. Okay, you must have a high testosterone, and you must another thing, that you must not have breast unless you are a fat person, which will mean now you will need to go to a gym. And if you underwent surgeries to be a man, you are not naturally a man. Okay. I'm laughing and I'm cringing at the same time, because I'm like, with that confidence, Mr. Panuel, I did not expect you to say this, because it is not only wrong, it is embarrassing also, number one, because there are some of the things that we might be asking ourselves right now that, okay, we are not fighting to be women. I'm not fighting to be a woman. I identify as a man, and I'm happy to be a man, and for some people, many people, let me not use myself as an example. Yes, I was born with low testosterone, so I'm asking myself, by your definition, that doesn't mean that I'm a man, because I am born with low testosterone. So doesn't mean that I'm not a man. I don't know, because it is a must. You are saying I must have a high testosterone, and there are cases where we have seen, that there are men who are born with female traits, like female traits. Like there are men who, for example, who have soft voices, like they are not trying to make their voices soft. Their voices are naturally soft, they are, but anyways, let me not get into that. I want to explain something that is very, 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 very great. That is a great red flag here, right? You are confusing manhood with sex. When you're defining manhood, you think that you're defining somebody's sex, whereas you're defining somebody's gender. Manhood, man is a social construct, is a gender social construct. Male is a biological trait. Okay? And there are people who say that being a man, when we understand that it is being an adult male, so by your definition, just let me say it for you. You should be saying a man is an adult male. Okay? Is an adult male. But that doesn't end there, because now what is a man? What is an adult male? Right? It doesn't end there. We are looking for the characteristics of what is an adult male. Right? And the characteristics of what an adult male should be will always differ society by society. Right? In some cases, right, in the animal kingdom, for example, in the animal kingdom, I love using the animal kingdom because it is what homophobics like to use when they are trying to be homophobic. Say, oh, look at nature, there's no homophobia there. Okay, in the animal kingdom, we know that a seahorse is an adult male seahorse, but in that kingdom of seahorses, their manhood is understood as to be a male, to be a man in that kingdom of seahorse. You need to be able to be pregnant and to carry seahorses, babies in your stomach. You know what I mean? I'm not a marine biologist, but this is what I know so far. You see, but in our society, men are not carrying babies in their tummies, right? However, they are adult males. So what does that mean? It means that the definition of manhood should not be rigid, because when you put on different lenses, you're gonna see that what defines manhood will always depend on the context. And just because your context is different from that person's context, it doesn't mean that you have to disapprove of that person's context. For example, just because you cannot carry babies in your stomach as an adult male, that doesn't mean that you have to disapprove of male seahorses context. In their context, that is what they have to do. That is what they can do. That is what they are allowed to do. That is what they are expected to do. That is what they are comfortable with doing. This gender topic I've studied for years academically in university, so I know it's complex. So I wanna put a little bit of more chaos to it, right? Which makes it problematic with your definition of what is womanhood, what is a woman, because you say that even if I put on my lashes, my wigs, and what, I'm still a man. For your context. But in somebody's context, they are not a man. They are a woman. Right? As much as in your context you are comfortable with this idea of you have to have high testosterone. In my context, I don't have high testosterone, but I'm a man. So that doesn't mean that you must approve of my definition of what is a man in my context. Because in my context, manhood has to have characteristics that are comfortable for my context. The same way for somebody who identifies as a woman. You know, that person gonna say in my context, or those people gonna say in our world, right? This is what we can do. This is what we must do. This is what we are expected to do. This is what we are comfortable with doing. Right? That makes us or qualifies us as women in our context. The problem here is trying to take your opinion, which is what anthropologists are always arguing against. And that is correct. Wanting your subjective interpretation of the world to be the blueprint, or to do the blueprint of what is right and wrong, instead of telling people that no, the moment you say you disapprove of that thing, it means that you see that's not right. You know, you see that it is not a right thing, right? Whereas the world that we are living in tries to teach us that just because I am a lion doesn't mean it is wrong for you to be a cat, like a domesticated cat. That is the truth. Okay. So we are living in a world where, like, just because you understand manhood in this way, that doesn't mean that my manhood is wrong. So when you say manhood must rise, I was asking myself, by whose definition of manhood? Or your definition of what is manhood? Then automatically my definition of what is manhood is wrong. But my context is different from yours. I'm a seahorse. In my context, I can carry babies. That is what manhood is. But for yours, it's not. Do I have to say that no, I disapprove of what is your manhood? No. I'm gonna end here because I was very disappointed. I could not let you just lie without me responding to you. You need to hear this.